Hey dudes, welcome back to another episode of our Rhomas Men's Team podcast. You are about to listen to one of our prior team meetings. If you ever want to join one of our live sessions that we have every Monday and Friday, head over to rhomas.com. That's RHOMAS.com and put your email in and we will send you a live link every time we record. We generally record on Mondays and Fridays. So if you ever want to be on the actual podcast, like we bring men up all the time to talk about their goals, talk about their obstacles, etc., head over to rhomas.com. And then also, if you want to help support the channel grow and also have access to exclusive content, book reviews, extra whiteboard sessions, etc., and some coaching sessions, head over to patreon.com and support us. We would love it. But if not, no biggie. We'll see you on the live sessions. Later, dudes. Enjoy this podcast.
Welcome to what should have been a live stream, but I failed technologically. Welcome to the Rhomas Men's Team podcast, dude.
We always fail technologically, dude. I
swear dude, it's impossible. I mean, it's like I didn't know YouTube had a rule. You need 24 hours. Like, what do they got to do in those 24 hours?
What do they got to do?
Is it really? Is it some guy in front of a gigantic, massive operating board that like has to plug a thing in? Like, what is that? Why do they make you wait? I mean, I guess they have to make sure you're not like ISIS, I guess, but. And after that takes 24 hours. And then I tried to do it on my other streaming platform. And I just went to hit go and it just wouldn't let me click the go button.
Dude.
I've done it like 50 times. It worked every single time. I'm like, hey, check this out. You know, so they're just the bumps, dude. They're nothing. It's just the terrain.
It's nothing for us, man. Here at Rhomas, nothing.
It's nothing, dude. That's what Rhomas.
I can't even download a damn video. For the listeners, we have like, I don't know. At this point, literally, we have, I think it's like 30 recorded videos. And they're all more than an hour, probably like an hour and a half. So, you know, just do the math on that, 30 to 50 plus hours of content. And the bottleneck is just me being stupid. I can't.
No, I think we should strongly consider stone tablets. Just carve
right.
all of this into stone tablets and just put it somewhere. Hide it, actually.
No, that's a good point.
Corners of the world. That'd be tight. Make people find it.
That's right, man.
Dude, we took a little hiatus. How was the family recharge time?
Oh man, it's so the funny thing is so my family came out to visit, my mom and my grandmom specifically. And the whole reason that I have 90% of the reasons that I have the goals that I do is for my family, and most of those are for my mom and my grandma. But I have to make sure I switch gears. So I have this Excel spreadsheet that's where I keep all of my goals. That's where I keep everything. And then of course I print out my goals in this document. But all of them are kept inside of Excel. Well, in one of those tabs in Excel, I have basically kind of the characters that I'm trying to be, as weird as this sounds. We're going pretty deep. So like one of them is like to be a great son. One of them is to be a great grandson. The other one's to be a great boyfriend. The other one's to be, you know, et cetera. Right. So I try to create the vision, the characters for myself. And then I have to read a statement to readjust to that character. No different than, you know, if you're about to step on to the basketball court, you know, you might think you're Michael Jordan. It's like, oh, I'm going to play as Michael Jordan. And as silly as that sounds, it's a little psychological trick to make your behaviors congruent with that archetype of who you're trying to embody. So when my mom and my grandma are in town, I have to read that document because let's just say my mom and I are so different. I'm highly analytical and she's highly emotional. And when I'm in work mode or workout mode constantly, those are like my kind of two gears, either working or working out. That's represents like 85 to 90% of my being. And, but that's a little too strong, right? Like for of a persona. So I need to read that document specifically. Let's just say the tab that says, okay, here's who I want to be as a son to my mom, right? When she comes out, and I literally have in there, remember that I'm highly analytical. She's highly emotional. The objective is for her to have a great time, right? And they have a whole paragraph. It's like, you know, she raised me on $9 an hour as a single mom. Like she's given to me way more than I could pay back. So basically don't be a jerk, right? That's what I have to remind myself of because I constantly want to be right. I want to nitpick. I want to do all because I want things to be right. I don't know, but it's that whole statement of, you know, would you rather be right or would you rather be rich? So would you rather be right or would you rather be rich with, you know, relationships? Would you rather be right or would you rather be rich with, you know, with whatever, right? Like insert whatever. So that really helped me. And that helps me kind of decompress. Of course, I'm not perfect at it. But to answer your question, the vacation that my mom and my grandma took out here was phenomenal. We got one of those Marriott timeshare things, which I'm not a big fan of timeshares, but we signed up for like the promotional deal, and they give you like a crazy deal. But the cool thing was that they give you, it's a big suite. So you get 2 bedrooms, and it's like full kitchen basically, and full living room, and a little mini dining room. So you can have, friends and people over during, it's not just some little dinky hotel room. So that was like super cool. And it was right in Newport. So it's overlooking the ocean. So a cool trophy for me was looking at my grandma. She's playing her word search game, because she's just a fanatic about word search, overlooking the ocean on the balcony. It's just awesome. So it's like those moments, like that's why I'm working, and I have to remember that. So it was awesome.
Yeah. And that's kind of what doing this with you has helped me do, it's just really like it's like a structured orientation to kind of move towards something that you actually like and value, rather than the alternative, which is kind of the purposeless drift of, scattered attention connected to like, the current events, your phone, and, the whole game of like, perception, and like, what would it be like if I did this, and it's like, what do you innately value? And, it's like mindfully structuring your life to kind of go for that. And dude, it's like, since the whole point of this Monday, Friday thing is to basically try to really to help me and also show people how to sandwich or structure their week or time in a way that just serves them so much better. And it sounds so weird, and like, not weird, but it sounds like, oh, obviously, but it's like, well, not really, because most people typically feel like something's, missing from their lives, or they're like, I'm not doing enough, or they're just like, there's 2 types of people. I feel like some people are like, I'm not doing enough. Some people are like, everyone else is out to get me, kind of, it's all their fault, whatever. But for the people, I will guess on the latter side of like, who are constantly like, I don't feel like I'm doing enough, learning how to structure your time has helped me not just like feel better, or, you put those goals on it where it's like, get a Lamborghini, get a this, get it. It's like, no, not really that, or even just to like feel good. It's like, it's just like kind of a combination of all those things, where it's like the thing I was thinking about is like, when you ever see the YouTube commercials with the one guy who's in a garage with like a Ferrari? He's like, hey, real quick, guys. It's like, this is just to get a garage. Like, let's just get a garage first.
Yep.
So it's
I know
like,
exactly who you're talking about too.
Yeah. So it's like, that gives these kind of endeavors, that's somebody peeing in this cup that should be the cup of wisdom, dude. And you get people like that who kind of taint these endeavors. So this, I do want to bring a thing that people can, if they want to, plug into to help structure their time, days, life, goals, value, something to kind of reanimate their life and existence in a way that ultimately serves themselves and their surroundings, rather than the alternative, which again, I think is just this mindless consumption / constant struggle to be like, things need to be better. And it's like, well, what? I don't know. So that's the point. One thing Monday, we talk about what we're setting out to do that week. Check in Friday for the victory lap, dude.
Awesome. I love it. Yeah. So for the listeners, that's the format we're gonna try out and move forward with. So every Monday we're gonna meet, say what's up, what'd you learn over the weekend, what are your goals that you want to accomplish between now and Friday, and then like Matt said, victory lap at the end of the week. Hell yeah.
Or you just come Friday with the tail between your legs and you're like, I was a bad boy.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is, so it's funny. So I'm getting like pretty into yoga now, and yoga is just very interesting psychologically, because I know, Matt, you've done yoga. Are you still doing it?
No, I haven't done it in a while, but I've been doing a lot of mindfulness, but the yoga, for some reason, I've been running so much that I'm like, it's not a good time. I'm deep
we're going to have to do it when you're out here.
Push-up challenge. Oh, I will. I love it. But I'm deep in a push-up challenge right now, and I need my core strength for my push-up challenge. Yoga will absolutely decimate me.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, you and I both know you were like super into yoga for a while. I think you were actually the first one to introduce me to it years ago. You took me like a hot yoga. I almost died.
Dude, I almost ran away the first time I was in one.
Did you?
I was about to leave. I was about to be like, I can't do this. It was too hot. I was like, I'm going to die.
Yeah,
I just saw a bunch of like just, suburban moms like kind of giggling and rolling around on their mats. And I was like, I think this might be in my head. I think I might be being a bitch about that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is they've got this great way of managing psychology. So for instance, like, if you ever done flow yoga, it's just a crazy amount of like things back to back to back to back. And then all of a sudden this instructor just like has us pause, like in like a half seated a half seated or a fully seated position without the chair, if you can imagine, right? So I don't know, after about like 3 seconds, your legs are just like on fire. But the way they talk through it is like, if you're feeling these sensations, it's normal. Just breathe through it. And it's just like, it really like, it really messes with your mind, but it forces you to calm down and to breathe. And so, and they convince you, and I think it's a great lesson, that the lessons oftentimes are not in the success, it's in the failure. It's the repetition, it's in the failure and then getting back up. That's why they call it a practice. And they'll kind of repeatedly throughout the session remind me of that. And so when you're talking about somebody coming back on Friday with their tail between their legs, it's like, that's one of the best things that could happen to you, because you now know a blemish in your activity that you can fix. Right. And I would say that if you and I are hitting on every single goal between Monday and Friday, then you're not setting the goals high enough.
Yeah.
As cheesy as that sounds, or as cliche as that sounds, that's a real thing. I'd rather fall short than keep on hitting it just because it feels good to pound my chest and tell you and the world that I've hit all my goals. It's like, no. I was talking to a guy not too long ago. He probably makes about, I think, like $13 million a year. Like, that's his personal earnings, and which is substantial.
Yeah.
And at least to me it is. And he said, I was talking to him, and he's probably in his 60s now. I said, if you had to do one thing differently, what would you have done? And he said, set my goals higher. Like 100%. He's like, I wish I would have set my goals higher, because now I'm here and I'm trying to do that now, but I wish I would have done it in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s, because I had these limitations. And if a guy like that is saying it, it's like, I should probably take a lesson from that.
Yeah. And there's also, like, even with that kind of stuff, like, so you're making $13 million a year. There's like the goal, there's the surface goal, which is I want to make $13 million a year. And it has to, in my opinion, has to be buttressed by the things and reasons, like, for like, well, why?
Oh yeah.
Kind of align like the what and the why, in my opinion, where it's like, I want to make $13 million a year, but like when I graduated school, I was like, I want to make $100,000 a year. And if I do that, I'll live happily forever. And you're 18, because you're thinking as an 18-year-old, like, if I make $100,000 a year, I'd have $99,000 a year, because it only costs $1,000 to live. And, so I've done that before, and it's like, it doesn't, I mean, it's awesome. Having that much money would be awesome, but it's like he was saying, like, I wish I kind of went to go higher. And I'm wondering, like, whether that's like, is that a higher dollar amount, or like kind of taking a more holistic approach? Like, what do you think he was kind of kicking himself about? Like,
Yeah. Well, I definitely think it's increasing the purpose, for sure. Like, this is not a type of guy who's just after the money. I could say that for sure.
Gotcha.
But it's like going with those natural mental barriers. Like, for instance, on this podcast, one thing for sure I was thinking about over the weekend, it is like the mission is to help each guy, right, listening to this, to help himself create himself and to be a better human, right, to expand his potential and have conversations to help us do that. And then you and I we're going on that same exact journey. So why not increase the purpose of that and then really quadruple down on it, rather than thinking it's like, oh, just a podcast, like that sort of thing, right? So it's like constantly increasing the vision for yourself, because, man, I mean, as silly as that sounds, and as nauseating as that could sound to somebody, it's like, oh, that sounds so corny. But I would imagine that I'll speak for myself. I have for sure hit goals, let's even say in the last year, that I would have thought would have been attainable. Like, never. If you would have asked me, for instance, if you would have asked me, hey, do you think you'd be managing with your partner $200 million, a handful of years ago, I would have said, no, that's absolutely insane. We're now 4 times or 400% larger than we were just a handful of years ago. That's insane. That's just one example. So we already have proof, and I'm sure you got the same proof, right? Like, all the success you've experienced with your podcast, with your stand-up comedy, all of that stuff, writing a book, all of those things that you've accomplished, you've already gotten a taste of what it's like to have these very large goals hit. So it's like, why, I wonder, and that was now this is not being derogatory towards you or towards me. I wonder what would happen if we 10x or 20x the view to begin with. How many more of those kind of game changer goals we'd hit?
For sure. No, that makes perfect sense. Yeah. I'm now thinking that when you're saying that, it's like, I kick myself. This is what I really kick myself about, is my 20s, man. I mean, again, I admire the decisions I made in my early 20s to kind of like curtail the, let's say, the traditional kind of cookie cutter employment situation.
Mm.
which I was just kind of allergic to, but I got out of that, and then I just squandered my time so hard, and I don't like regret or be like, oh, if only, like, I don't care about that, but it's like, damn it, I wish I had something like I was operating on it. And it's not really, I don't kick myself. And this is another purpose of this podcast. Like there was parts of, and I think a lot of people have this, but there were parts of my life that I just had to fucking figure out for myself.
Yep.
And like, how awesome would it be, dude, just to have like, I almost said suppository. I did that on another suppository of knowledge, a repository of knowledge. I had to delete 20 minutes of an online module I was doing because I said suppository of knowledge. God damn it. But it'd be awesome to have like a dynamic thing of people sharing kind of, real-time information. And, I think like in terms of male-to-male relations, especially, or just in general, but specifically male-to-male, there was kind of like a generational firewall put up between men sharing direct experiences, So I think it would be nice to have a more kind of fluid and dynamic, to kind of have a more fluid and dynamic conversation around like the certain issues, or like, hey, I'm 35, you're 24. Chances are you're a moron. Here's some things that were super helpful to me, or maybe you're not. Maybe you're more advanced than me, whatever. But it's like, typically, here's what I experienced back then. And like, to have a place where people could kind of like, be plugged into this kind of evolving and moving and kind of really pointed, endeavor, which would be you and I doing this, and whoever wants to try to do it and kind of report back, which would be awesome. Of just kind of really calling your shots, organizing your time. And then like the point of this is like talking about the friction or whatever pops up in between. And if information that is useful can be gleaned from that again could have saved a person like me who was kind of just kicking around disillusioned for their entire 20s. Like, imagine that was 10 years, dude. Imagine if someone had been like, hey, try this, you know what I mean? Rather than just having to figure all that stuff out for yourself. It's which, there's great strength to be had from that, but it doesn't have to be that way.
Oh, dude. I mean, I can tell you, number one, it's super rewarding for the person giving the advice. And then it's unbelievably rewarding for the person taking the advice. And Matt, what you're saying is spot on. Whether or not you're going to take it and say, oh yeah, I want to do this, or you say, that's terrible advice, I'm not going to do that. And you stay away from those pitfalls. But I've seen some crazy results from people taking, both of our advice, and crazy is results that I've received by taking other men's advice. So the knowledge sharing and storytelling and all of these lessons that we can give to each other are unbelievably valuable. I'd argue it's the most valuable thing you could have, because that will change your thoughts, and your thoughts will then ultimately trickle down to your actions.
Yeah, hell yeah. And it also gives people a feeling of, whether they're this aware of their feelings or not, it almost gives you a feeling of being kind of contained within a unit. Like, dude, the weight loss challenge you started, and this is like, again, this is proof is in the pudding stuff. People are out here trying to do this all by themselves. You're up against a humongous world. It's disheartening. It's very difficult. And I'm talking from direct experience. And you can separate this into any realm you want to do. Just with exercise, I joined a little challenge with my cousins and a couple of like my friends on the Under Armour app. Dude, so I'm running now. I do probably like, I went from not running at all basically to now I can do, and the same thing. If you're telling me like, oh, you're going to run 20 miles this month, I'd be like, dude, you're smoking dust. I'm not a runner. That was a self-conceptualization I had. I'm just not a person who can run. That was a rule I had, and I was living by it. So then I started, with the pressure of kind of like a team who are people kind of competing. It's like, I'll just go do one extra mile. Now let me go. I think I can squeeze 2 miles out today. And all of a sudden it's like, in my head, it was like, if I run 2 miles, I have to take like 3 days off. And it's like, well, let me just try to run 2 miles 2 days in a row. Turns out I could do that too. So it's like, just having that team structure on that side, it's like, I'll be at 4,000 push-ups for the month of September tonight. And I'll have ran, I don't know, something like 15 to 20 miles by the end of this month. And dude, that would, if me alone, just kind of in my own head, just, within my own self-conceptualization and rules, that would not have happened. I know this, I can say this for sure. And then, then you invited me to the weight loss challenge, which again, is just like being able to be geared into like these social pressures, I would say good pressures of being like, hey, every single time I went to eat something that was kind of like, would have just kept me kind of plumpish. I think about having to send a picture to the group of people. And I go, no, I can't do that. Like, I'm not doing that. So it's like, dude, already it's being able to, and trying to kind of expand. This is kind of the goal for me personally. One of my overarching goals is to expand on that kind of connection, that kind of purposeful connection rather than the sneering kind of self-serving cesspool that is kind of, in my opinion, many factions of the internet today. So.
Yeah. Well, for some reason, I think that we've lost our way because we've been told this story of independence, and that's great, but you can be independent, but come back to your team. Like, you go to your team to help you build the muscle, and then you can operate independently out in the world to a certain degree. But you need a team, man. There's so many reasons as to why you need a team. That's one of my biggest secrets of accomplishing stuff, is literally I go and I join teams that help me do that. Because all the stuff that you're talking about right now is spot on. Recognizing the results, and oftentimes it's hard to do that, to recognize the results. And so you're doing a really good job of sort of narrating or being able to observe your output. And by you saying like how many miles have you run, you think, now because of a team?
Let me see. I can actually tell you. It's funny. I can clearly tell you how many it is. I have to pull this thing up real quick. But also too, well, I find this thing, the kind of in line with this too, is there's a book I'm listening to called The Untethered Soul. And they talk towards the end. They go into like your thoughts, your this.
Did we talk about that? Because I was just recommended that book by another person. We never talked about it. I just started it.
It's awesome.
I just started it. Literally, that's hilarious.
Our mind meld continues to.
That's right, man.
It's crazy. It's so funny how our informational universes align so much.
It's wild. It is wild, dude.
All right. So in August, I did a measly 12 miles total. And then in September, I'm already up to 15 miles, not including, I did like a 1.5 mile run the other day, and I didn't set my app correctly. So really I'm at about 17 miles. So I'll hit probably 25 miles by the end of the month. Dude,
okay, so 25 miles for September.
And 12 for August. So that's like 30. I've ran, basically, not bragging, ran a marathon. It only took me 2 months. But I run a marathon in about 2 months.
And how many miles were you running prior to joining the team?
I had this thing in my head where like I could only run 1.5 miles. That's it. Like I can run 1.5 miles, but like, dude, that's like, I can't do that all the time. I'm not built like that. Dude.
So if you had to guess, how many miles do you think you ran per month prior to joining the team?
1.5. Like
right.
Real, like 1.5.
Yeah. So that's crazy, right? I mean, think about that. So you've done more in 1 month than, let's say, basically, like you're going to do more in 1 month in September than basically did the entire year prior.
Yes, definitely. And
like,
it's like,
that's the result of joining a team. That's literally how exponential you can get the results. Like literally, I've done the same thing with bodybuilding. I've done the same thing with dance. I've done the same thing with my career. I mean, and your push-ups, how many push-ups are you going to hit?
5,000. I'll hit 5,000 at the end of September. That's basically a year's worth of push-ups as well in a month.
Oh, easily. And you're already at 4,000, right?
As of tonight, yeah, I'll be at 4,000. I'm doing like 300. I'm trying to get to the Herschel Walker 500 push-ups a day, but I can do, again, same thing. And this is really, again, what the Untethered Soul's kind of talking about, because you can look at this in two ways. It's like, you can think of this as in a way, not like self-serving, but like a self-focused way where it's like, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing that. There's goals, I'm hitting this. And like, you forget all of that. What I'm excited about is this little thing that I can kind of be attached to, which is these little teams that I've been put into these little teams, which is, it's just nice. It's nice. And so if you're not in a team, typically what you're up against is your own self-conceptualizations. And this is what the book Untethered Soul talks about, is like, you define, rules, or I can't do this, or I'm this kind of person. And they kind of like say, like, imagine like, that's more or less your mental prison, not a prison, but like that's a mental like dwelling you construct to protect yourself so you can feel safe. But in reality, when you go up against a team, you see other people doing stuff, you start to get curious. You're like, well, what if I could do that too? And again, I can't run 20 miles. I'm just not a runner. And then you start doing it and you're like, oh, I can completely let go. That was a thing that I would hit a limit. I'd feel kind of uncomfortable about it. And then I'd go, it's like an electric fence you kind of build around yourself. And a lot of them just aren't true. They're just not true. Like, dude, in terms of self-conceptualizations, I used to have one, again, we talked about this on the last one. I think that one, I don't know if it made it, but it was like, I used to think I was going to have a heart attack if I did cardiovascular exercise.
Right.
Just because I was having heart arrhythmias due to stress and all these other things. In my head, my brain went, my brain's trying to figure out like, in the book they talk about, you're giving your mind the task of making everything perfect. And it's like your brain at some point is just like, try that, like just freaks out. So my brain had come up with this thing that it was like, oh dude, like you're in danger of having a heart attack, dude. And it was just like, I'd have a little heart palpitation and I would go, I knew it. I definitely am. You go to a cardiologist, like he doesn't know. And then dude, it's like eventually you have to reality test and you go, that was a self-conceptualization that if I didn't burn off, it would have had devastating consequences, on my overall life.
Oh yeah.
Going up against them is entirely overwhelming and terrifying, but then you do it and then it was just nothing. It's just a sand. You're like, oh my God, that was literally nothing. It's like, thank God I did that. So, and in order, what makes that, I did that by myself, which was, it could have been so much easier if you just have a team doing stuff like that with you. And it's just, again, it's like, and why do, and it almost, a lot of stuff too gets filtered through. I'm sorry, because I know I'm rambling, but a lot of these kind of endeavors get filtered through, like, I'm kind of likening it to like one of those websites. You ever see the websites where you scroll down for like 95 feet and like it tries to get you to sign up?
It's called long form sales page.
Long form sales page. This is what it's not. This is just join up, squat up, and let's fucking go, dude.
Yep.
Even if it was just you and me doing this again, which we should probably get into our weekly shot calls. Dude, it's already increased my life. It's increased my life quality. I don't know. I can't put a number on it, but like significantly and noticeably. So it's like, dude, hop on if you want to, dude. Hop on. Yeah. And if you don't, no problem, brother.
Well, so, and I think it's also important of, number one, you're spot on. But hop on if you want to, and if you're not ready, we'll be here.
Exactly.
I think that's one of the great things about church, is that it's kind of like, okay, everybody's on a continuum, and you can, if you want to join, if you're ready now, then you're ready now and come and join up. But if you're not, then, you go out on a binger or whatever. And then a handful of bingers later, you realize like, no, I should be on a better path. Right. And then you come back. But no, it's not to sound infomercially about it, but joining up a team, and, we'd love to have you on ours, for the listeners. Joining up a team, identifying what you want, and then saying, actually, let me redefine that. Identifying what you are willing to earn, I think, is a better way of putting it. What you want can just be some sort of pipe dream, but what I guess you can really define on what you really want by saying what you are willing to earn, right? Like, what is it that you want, and what are you willing to put the effort towards? But it's amazing. I don't know, it sounds crazy, but it's amazing to me how actual little effort it takes relative to what you thought it would take if you actually join up on a team, because it's almost like at a subconscious motivational level. Does that make sense? Like, I know that I will go to the gym more often because I know that you are looking over my shoulder digitally when we're posting our workouts. And like you're saying earlier, like at a subconscious level, it will motivate me more, even though I'm not doing that mental calculation.
Well, and you think about, if you don't have that, what's the alternative to that? It's your own mind who's ready and willing to make up an excuse for you. And it's just geared to make you feel better. So you miss, and it's like, come on, like, dude, mine will be like, it's not that important. Like, it's just important to like be here, and, I'll start, which, cool. It is true on some level, but it's like, okay, man, just having those pictures makes it not even a question. It's like, going through a thing, and it's just like, all right, here. And then it's like, so yeah, I totally agree with you. And I think it does. You're better off. A team is a replacement for your own mind that's typically designed to protect your feelings and your sense of self-worth, which you will unconsciously, and everybody does this, try to, reconstruct reality to make sure you're still like, like you're not at fault, blah, blah, blah. Having a team and you just have a bunch of other people and be like, bullshit, that thing goes up in smoke, and you're like, oh, cool. And then you just feel better, weirdly.
Well, dude, I think you're spot on, man. You're preaching this morning. You were preaching.
I love it, dude. Well, that's the other thing too. It's like church absolutely failed an entire generation of people. Not even, obviously there was the Catholic sex scandals and all that, but it's like, barring that, it's like, dude, you're telling me there's this organization that has billions of dollars. I'm specifically referring to the Catholic Church. I mean, millions of dollars, one of the biggest landowners in the world. And then you go to church. Like, I'll go to church on Sunday with my mom every now and again. Just like on Easter or whatever. And you go there and you're like, dude, all the resources, all this is the product. Some dude just like, I mean, dude, it's like, I get so bored. I start seeing in black and white. Like, my vision just, I'm just sitting there just like, It's just crazy. And it's like, why not a more, and it's, forget about like, the teaching and all that stuff for a minute. And so like, let's think about the social function of that, of like people being able to kind of have something they feel like they're connected to, that's dynamic, that's alive, and, in a way that can orient their lives in a way that works for not just themselves, but everyone around them. It's like, that's the point of religion, and it's
Yep.
failed. It's totally failed. It's been corrupted. And, it's like, and again, I'm speaking in very general terms, and I have a very limited religious experience, but from my experience, that seems to be a pretty popular sentiment across the board.
Well, you wish there was something more, something that was more congruent with maybe what the higher level meaning of church is supposed to be. And I joined a men's group not too long, a very famous men's group. I'm not going to say the name just out of respect, but this is probably one of the largest men's group in the world. And dude, it was like 90. Like you go into these meetings, it was at minimum once a month, and you go into these meetings, and 97% of it was just ritual every single time, just ritual. And I can understand the importance of ritual. I'm not confused about that issue, but to do that, it's probably better spent. Hey, how's your week looking? What are your goals? Are you doing what's important to you? Can we help each other out there? 10 minutes of that conversation is infinitely more valuable than 10 hours of ritualistic behavior of where I don't even know the meanings of these things.
Yeah.
So I think that's the vein, at least when you're saying that, that's the chord that it's striking with me. It's like, yeah, can we evolve our organizations and our groups and our teams to be more exact and precise on helping us all make progress?
Yeah, dude, exactly. And this is I think this is a constant process, dude. This has happened over and over and over and over again, where it's like things kind of get stale and old and kind of protected and closed in and kind of drenched in collective self-interest of people who are in kind of positions to benefit from certain things. Then the mass amounts of people go, hey, this sucks. And they're like, no, you're not allowed to say that. It doesn't suck.
Yep.
Come on, get over here. You're going to hell or whatever. And you're like,
yep.
Oh, this sucks. I'm pretty sure this sucks. And, so it's like, these things have to be upheaved, regularly. So this is it's an attempt to fill the void of collective real community rather than the, online social casino that is people's attempts to kind of elevate themselves through social media, and, which usually just turns into a gambling or a crippling technology addiction, but that's a whole other subject.
Dude, I can't wait till we create a scorecard for this team.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's going to look at something, and we'll put it out to all the listeners. So it's every single day. Are you logging in your score for the basics and then for the stuff? So for instance, are you drinking a gallon of water a day? Are you sleeping 8 hours a night? All those things. Because it's amazing to me, man, how little we're actually taking inventory of some fundamental things. Not even our doctors. I mean, it's crazy how few times we're actually taking inventory of those things. And we might be taking inventory. Let's just say, like, for instance, you're saying, oh, I'm running X amount of miles per day. But how many of us are actually saying, okay, how much am I sleeping? How much nutrient dense food am I putting in my body? How are my relationships going? And putting it on one scorecard and then measuring it together, I think is going to be a really cool project and document we're going to release to the listeners at some point soon here.
Yeah, well, and you think about the average dude who's kicking around being like, bullshit, I tried everything, none of this stuff works. And it's like, dude, you eat at Wawa 3 times a day. Like, it's like even at 7-Eleven. It's like, dude, you eat a food that was made and wrapped before you were born 3 times a day.
Yep.
And then stuff that sits on like, taquitos and stuff. And it's like, oh, I tried everything. It's like, your body is freaking out because it doesn't have the stuff to regenerate your cells, dude. Like, of course you feel shitty. Well, I tried it. This stuff is bullshit. It doesn't work. It's like, okay, man. Yeah, sure. Like try not drinking, 10 gallons of Mountain Dew a week and, report back. But
oh man, the fundamentals, I'm so excited and pumped up for this podcast because we can do our best of learning from each other and learning from others and then teaching each other the fundamentals. That is borderline a lifelong quest. Just because there's so much marketing BS out there. Did you watch the documentary The Game Changers?
I haven't yet. It was something I missed last week. It's on my little list.
Oh yeah, definitely check it out sometime. That guy, the creator of The Game Changers, which was this enormous documentary. I think it was one of the only documentaries. I think it was put nationwide in movie theaters all across America. And I got a chance to talk to him, and he goes to my gym, and he's just a great guy. But we got to talk about some of this stuff, and just the fundamentals that are missed because, like, for instance, let's say in the nutrition industry, there's not a lot of profit relative to the pharmaceutical industry. There's not a lot of profit in telling you that eating 2 tablespoons of flaxseed a day is oftentimes the same as, if not outperforming of the blood pressure medication out there by the pharmaceutical companies, right? Just because, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, like zero, but I do pay attention to data and the patterns. So you're most likely not going to learn about flaxseed, two tablespoons of ground flaxseed per day, right? You're more likely to learn about the damn blood pressure medication because that's what your doctor is going to prescribe to you. And not that he's an evil person, but that's just how it is. That is just how it is. So the more that we can get out there in the world and teach the fundamentals, do our own research, read as many books as possible, talk to as many people as possible, and teach each other those fundamentals, and then just trying it. And then you say, oh man, like I can actually do this. Like, oh, I actually lose weight if I eat vegetables. That's an interesting concept. So yeah, man, I'm pumped for this, man.
Well, the AMA also, I think in the 50s and 60s, launched like a concentrated effort to, and I forget the exact dates, but there was an actual effort by the AMA. I think that was fueled by the pharmaceutical industry, they used to like threaten to disbar or whatever, like take licenses away from doctors who said that you can heal yourself with food. That actually was a concentrated effort by the pharmaceutical companies early on. That's why chiropractors used to go to jail. They would be like, chiropractors' hours are still, I think they take off on Tuesdays because or Thursdays or something, because they traditionally would shut down for a day because they can go visit their friends in jail, because they still lock people up who would say that like you can actually heal yourself with food.
That's crazy.
So, it's pretty nuts.
So,
it was a long time ago, but those remnants kind of, it was like,
oh yeah,
they got sued and they paid out, but they're like, hey, we still win, so it's like, and that stuff is all, the problem is like everyone wants to camp up on one side or the other. It's like, dude, there's some medications, they're awesome, they're great, but it's like, leave them to last resort. Like, it's like, if you just take and eat, if you eat the way you're supposed to, like, dude, I used to get heart arrhythmias constantly. And I could have said, oh, they're this, I could have went on this or that, or tried doing this. It was just stress. It was just, I was overstressed. I wasn't getting things done. And it was, there was a million different variables. But it was really just kind of like sleep and meditation. And it's like, dude, I swear to God, they've gone down by about like 1,000%.
Dude, that's why we need the scorecard is those fundamental things. It's amazing. It's like, dude, and this is going to sound crazy, but for me, I think it's like probably let's say 5 to 10 habits. And once we start putting this on a scorecard, it'll really help. 5 to 10 habits solved like 99% of my issues. Right? Like, it's crazy. It's just, and now you have to do them daily. You at least have to do them consistently enough per week. But so for instance, right, I used to get cold sores. And because Frank DeMarco, one of my best friends when I was a kid, used my damn chapstick when I was a kid. When we were down Wildwood, New Jersey, I told him specifically not to use my chapstick, and I got a cold sore a week later. So I confronted him. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm sorry, dude. Like I need to use." So anyway, so now I got cold sores. So for years, I would go to the doctor and say, "Hey, I get cold sores." The very first time I went to the doctor, I said, "I get cold sores." So he prescribed me medication for it. And literally that was it. It was just like, oh, well, every time you feel you get a cold sore, and it might be relatively frequently, you just take this medication. Okay, great. So I did that for years. And then when I was working in New York, like Wall Street was super, super stressful. And I was sleeping 3-4 hours a night very consistently, like week after week, month after month. So I was getting them all the time. So I'm just like popping pills like crazy. That stuff can't be good for you. I'm just guessing. Mm-hmm. Now, that's one option. And then finally, I moved up here to California, and I ran out of medication, and I didn't have health insurance for a long time because I just didn't want to take, I was trying to cut every little expense that I could to help grow the business. And I was forced to start to research how to solve that issue of cold sores naturally. And dude, literally I did a few things. Now I haven't taken medication in years. I've only gotten, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 cold sores. I was getting like 1 a month. Damn. Right prior. Oh, it was crazy. But then I start researching it, that just kind of the natural method, and then the dietary changes to make, and then getting more sleep, meditating, etc. And I've literally maybe gotten 2 cold sores in, I don't know, the last 3 years. I don't even remember the last time I got them. So I went from getting almost 1 per month to almost 0 per month, right, over the last 3 years.
So think about it from this perspective. So at your left to your own devices, you're just a person who has your self-conceptualizations, things you think, the things you make up about the world. And then, if you don't have any other access to information, you just go to a doctor and they're like, oh, here's medicine. That's all,
Yep.
It's as good as you get. If you're on like a team type of people like this, then you get all these other people. Like you could say, there was someone who had the same thing. It's like, oh, just get some sleep. How many years of that do you cut out? And it's like the idea of this is connecting this web of people who are, focused on not just self-enhancement, but like, enhancement of their overall purpose and kind of trying to ripple that out as far as possible.
Yep.
And again, where it's like, it's just so cool to have that, because if you don't have that kind of real connection that you can trust, you're, in my opinion, left at the hands of things that don't have yourself, like a more of a for-profit type of approach that don't really have your self-interest. And that's not like an all damning statement, but they're just the people who have enough money to put something to get your attention enough, and
Yep.
they'll win out. Unless you have the ability to have people go like, no, like you don't need that. Check this out.
Oh yeah. Well, in that documentary, you'll see in the Game Changers. So Arnold Schwarzenegger was on there, and he was talking about having a plant-based diet, and he was saying he's not fully vegan, but plant-based. That's why I like the term plant-based. It's like, is the large majority of your calories of your food coming from natural plants? And I thought that was awesome. So anyway, he was on there and he said, we were told, and you're still being told, that having a big cheeseburger, et cetera, and a big hunk of steak is healthy. And he said, you have to understand that's just marketing. But when he said that, because I was on the trailer too, it's like, but here's the thing. Most people don't understand that.
Yeah.
But they don't understand that. And that marketing goes way deeper than just on a commercial that's being put in front of your face, right? There's so many areas where this pops up, and that marketing seeps its way through just common conversations. To all of a sudden where it's not just marketing, right? That's your sum total of knowledge in the world about that given domain. But so having people talk about this and actually committing to increasing your knowledge around it consistently, knowing that what's the best, I think, what does Dr. Greger say? That what is the best available balance of evidence right now? That could change in the future, right? But what is the best medical knowledge right now, the balance of that knowledge right now? And that's great. And then trying it, right? Going out and trying it. So yeah. And so when you and I are doing our weight loss competition right now, until you come out to California for a vacation, it's a good time to test this stuff and see if it actually works.
Yeah. And again, it is interesting to see, because then it's like, I'm curious to see, like, there's my diet, there's the things I like to eat, the way I like to eat, then I'll be able to see how that works up against, somebody else's, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, dude, I think, and I think the important thing is too, it's like, in terms of like the goal sheet, all of this, these are just tools to enhance, because there's a whole understanding that like you are at a deficit, you need this thing. This is the kind of the whole system we operated in. Like you're at a deficit unless you have this thing, and then you won't have it. And the purpose of this is like, man, maybe you're at a deficit, maybe you're not, but like, we're going to structure tools to help it. So you're not, rather than, I feel like I call this kind of like, we kind of live in a system of coercive economics, where it's like, you use advertising to make people feel like they're inadequate, incomplete, blah, 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 blah. And then you dangle a thing and be like, hey, if you don't want that thing we convinced you of, that condition we've convinced you that you have, take this, or have this thing, where this is just kind of like, it's irrelevant. It's like, just join the squad and, we'll just kind of gain a we'll kind of just keep feeding into this thing that keeps feeding into itself and growing and growing and growing. As each little individual nodules on this do. I think that's pretty cool. So
100%, man. So let's get into it, man. So it's now Monday. What are the weekly benchmarks you're trying to hit? What are the weekly goals?
So I had
this week's particular goals.
So last week, I have to say I'm pretty happy. I did a bunch of stupid stuff that like I'm usually like, that's not work stuff. I don't want to do it, but I've kind of been able to like make sure I had to like cut up a chair and get rid of it, which was an enormous undertaking that I put off for about 6 months.
Cut up a chair? What the hell?
Yeah, it was just I couldn't get it out of my basement without taking the door off, and it was so heavy. I had like 3 people help me move it. And I'm like, zero chance I'm taking that door off again, organizing a team of people to remove this chair. So it's like, just getting stuff like that done. It's crazily rewarding. Where I now have extra space in my basement. And it's like, so that was a big one from last week. Just wanted to brag about it. Big W.
Nice.
But for this week, I'm going to build you're hearing me correctly, 2 learning modules for my PsychNol website that I'm building. That's going to, help people give people information to psychological techniques and this and that and skills that can help their well-being. So I'm still building that. So I want to do 2 learning modules for that.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm going to do it. I have a podcast for that too. Psychnol. I'm going to try to record an episode for mindfulness. It kind of ties into the learning modules. So there are 2 goals. I got to do a book list for the podcast website for Matt and Shane's. I got to record. This is a funny one. I have to record an intro video for the Psychnol website. And I've been putting it off because I know I have this feeling in my head that I'm going to look like an enormous dildo doing the, hey guys, welcome to the, like, and I'm trying to, again, you talk about what I was talking about before. These are the bars of your current existence. This, you come up against this self-conceptualization. Oh, only, that's a weird thing to do. But in my head, it's like, it will make the website better. But it's like a protective thing. You come up against it and you go, leave that for later, because that opens you up to potential painful, weird stuff. And what I've been this is like my overarching thing that I'm focused on currently, is coming up against them and just doing them anyway. And you're like, oh, I'm still here. Whatever passed, not a big deal. And again, like, am I making a decision based on like, avoiding short-term discomfort, or am I filtering that decision through the overarching larger plan of the thing that I'm trying to bring about? So I've been doing that a lot, and it seems to serve me way better than being like, I don't want to get made fun of. So intro video and if I don't have that done by next week, I'm telling you the reason why, so that if I don't get it done, I can't be like, oh, that's specifically why I didn't do it.
Awesome.
Also watch the Game Changers. The other thing too is this week I'm going to try to, now that I got my habits down, I'm going to try to refine my time and implement systems. I started emailing myself. I started emailing myself at the end of every night, something I just started doing kind of organically, but it helps because I usually wake up and check my email, not like right when I wake up, but it's one of the first things I do. So I want to, Jesus Christ, I get so much bullshit emails. All right. So I have my tasks for the day that I like to do. Like the Psychnol website's one of them: physical fitness, learning, and writing. And I want to now structure my time. So like, no matter what, it's like, if I have 2-hour blocks, I have to fit, even if it's just 15 minutes of those things, fit them in there and make sure I'm doing those every day. So that's
time blocking. Hell yeah.
Time blocking, and then refining my time blocking with very specific systems of things that I'm inherently interested in. And then, trying to allocate for the ones that actually bring me in money. Because a lot of times I'll have a thing that brings me in money and I'll totally ditch it for a thing that like does nothing and, kind of gets me in hot water. So I'm trying to be realistic about it. Like, give the attention to things that are currently I'm living off of, and then also structure my other time for the things that are just kind of more like passion projects. So I try to bring balance to like my economic sphere and then my inherent interest sphere, and, the systems of the inherent interest ones, the idea of them is eventually they will garner something that will be able to add to that little piggy bank. So like, I'm not just like steaming my family into poverty selfishly, being like, well, this is the stuff I want to do, but also balancing that out and not becoming like a drone, completely selling out my own self-interest. Cause I don't think that really helps in terms of like the other part of the family, which is like being present, not being like a miserable fucking mope. So
do you, I know you do time blocking, but do you time block specific days or hours per day per genre of your life? So, okay, this time is relationship time. This time is work time, and then time blocks inside. Does that make sense?
Yes.
This time is fitness time.
The answer is no. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now. So I'm trying to, I have the time blocking down. I'm generally working during those times. And now I'm trying to refine that into like I haven't been writing enough, and that bothers me. So it's like, I'll have like, my morning will be mostly a, kind of stuff like, personal development and all this stuff, and I have to be flexible because like Maya will just wake up and I'll, go grab her and, all that stuff, but it's still, and it's kind of fun because I can do my exercises right around her, and it's really funny. She like laughs. Brittany was doing jumping jacks yesterday and she was just like laughing uncontrollably. So it was the funniest thing in the world. So that's like the little bonus. Awesome. That's like the little bonuses you get. But yeah, so that's kind of the goal, to the best of my abilities. I know it won't be perfect, but to still I have my habits, but I want to now, I'm like, I will like write for like 10 minutes or be doing that. But now I want to expand that and expand my habits out. So like, I'm not just doing them and checking them, but like actually starting to create stuff by doing those habits, if that makes sense.
Awesome. Yep. 100%, man. Cool. Okay. And then we're going to check back in on Friday on the results of those.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So for me, I want to get back, because you brought up the Untethered Soul. So I just wrote this down. I want to try to finish that this week. That's the goal.
I can't wait to talk to you about that.
Oh yeah.
That's my favorite. That's currently the thing that I'm burning inside to talk about. I love that book. It was probably one of the most helpful books I've listened to in a long time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna get that done. 5 workouts for this week. So that's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Gallon of water per day. And then in terms of this, I want to have the scorecard done by Friday.
Hell yeah.
So I really want to get the first iteration now because that will really, really help people. And then I want to figure, so that will be iteration 1, and then I'll figure out how we can disperse it to these guys. And it'd be cool if we can do it in a way that gets the scorecard out to people, and then we can aggregate that data and see it. So like a point system, and then see, John, Rick, and Tom, scored X amount this week or whatever. Right. So I'll have to figure that out.
I'll look into starting a Discord. Discord's really helpful for kind of like gathering people, and it's free. You set
Discord?
it up. So, yeah, I'll start a Discord.
What is that?
Discord is it actually was meant for more of like gamers. So like it was a place where you could I think you can stream from there. Basically, it's like a little chat room that runs that people can also meet in and do little video chats. I use it for Psych-Null. So it's like it's a little place you can have where like you could just pop up your phone and there would be a Rhomas related chat room all day long going on. And
oh, interesting.
People can jump into little video meetings and talk privately, and it's pretty cool actually. So
cool.
And it's free, it's easy to use. So that might work pretty well. And then you can put out like those little stuff, like you're saying the scorecard, you could just drop that on there and it'd be like the format would be right there for people to use. Okay,
cool. Yeah, no, I'm going to check that out. Cool. Thanks, man.
Definitely.
And then in terms of growing the office here, you and I talk a lot about, you have to major on major things. Most people major on minor things. And when you get involved in finance, you can see it numerically. So you got these 2 very large cases that have just been a little hesitant because my mind it's like, oh man, it's like a little scary. These are extremely large cases. One is a $7 million asset case, and then another one is significantly large. This she's worth about like $20 million, but we're working on particular transaction for her that could really be a game changer to the office. But because of the large nature of it, I'm like, I got to get it right. And then but all of a sudden I'm trying to make it perfect. And now it's like, it's 2 weeks later. It's like, I should have made way more progress on this, but my brain is holding me back. Kind of like the stuff that you were saying earlier.
Yep.
Right? I'm trying to make it perfect. So I want to make massive progress on both of those, like push it forward to the point where the ball is in the client's court and not my court, because right now it's in my court. So those are the two. Those 2 things will move the needle dramatically for this office. So I've got to do that. And then just a little personal challenge. I want to not spend money on luxury food this week. That is the goal.
Define luxury food, just so I know.
Anything that I didn't cook myself.
There you go. Got you.
Yeah.
Got you.
I'm just noticing it's like, dude, what? Like, how am I spending hundreds of dollars?
Yeah.
On luxury? It just doesn't make any sense when it's, I can make way more nutritious food for myself. But it's just easy, right? It's just one of those things like, oh, it's easy. And, I'm kind of hungry right now and that looks good. So even though it's all super nutritious,
yeah,
but still, just it's that money could be better allocated towards my current and or future family. So I need to remember that, because basically the way I think about money is any dollar that I spend today is $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10 in the future. So is this $5 thing I'm about to buy, is it really worth $45?
Damn.
Yeah. Because that's just the math.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
And sometimes the answer is yes. I mean, for level 10 things, to me, the answer is yes, right? Like, yeah, this is a level 10, but anything level 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, just not that important. It's like, no, you don't need to get that, because that will be worth, anywhere from 5 to 10x in the future.
No, man, I think that's pretty cool. That's the thing I've done with eating out, where it's like I only do it on the days that I'm so strapped and so busy that I'm like, and it's the same thing. Like, luckily now you have places you can eat out that like aren't unhealthy. Because that's the kicker. I'm like, it's healthy. Like, I'll buy it. But yeah, it starts to add up, dude. Uber Eats, everything's just 20. It's like you check out, it's $3, and you check out on Uber Eats, it's like $27, and you're just like, what? How?
Oh yeah, it's crazy, man. Especially out here in California. Yeah. But so last night, I mean, you saw my meals, and we should talk about that if you've got time.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt and I are in a weight loss challenge because Matt's coming out to visit on October 7th, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, October 7th. So say, hey man, we're probably going to not eat too great when you're out here because you're on vacation. Why not try to drop a few pounds before you get out here, and let's make a little thing out of it. So I think we've got 6 guys now doing it with us, and we have to take pictures and send them to each other. Well, anyway, the picture that I sent you guys last night, it's like a huge, bowl thing of veggies. It literally probably weighed at least 5 pounds, like at least 5 pounds. And it cost me, I don't know, $3 for the whole meal, $4 for the whole meal. If I were to get that same thing out in like some of the restaurants out here, I don't know, it would have cost me $27 easy. And that doesn't even count tip, like easily. So, and the nutrient density of that food. So yeah, it's just, I need to better allocate those funds specifically for luxury food that I'm spending on right now.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it would, again, that's the cool thing about this. And I think the stuff you've already done like the weight loss aspect of all this stuff. And you're, I would say, a master of a lot of the physical fitness stuff. So it's like all of this stuff kind of intertwines with each other, whether it's like, say it's like being more mindful or eating better or trying to make more money. It really seems to, or just, you can also say the overarching goal of holistically enhancing your life. These are all the little subcomponents, and all of them can be greeted, kind of joined upon. People can learn different things. People can bring different things to the table. You never know who's listening or what their background is. They could be pretty advanced on it. They could be an absolute beginner. It's perfect. It all works out because, these are kind of really fundamental things. And it's not so much the things, the products, the sheets. It's really just creating this dynamic where people have kind of like a group with some support where they could just, have fun with it and not be like miserably doing beach body workouts by themselves on TV.
Yep.
This is insane.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, man. And the big thing I like that part of the thing you're trying to kind of correct in terms of just goals. And the one thing I'm trying to correct big time, I've had some success with it, is really limiting my phone time and my social media stuff. Cause it's a tool. I use it. I sell t-shirts, I do all that stuff with it. But it easily, my day very quickly starts to revolve around it, and it fractionates my attention when I have it on my phone. So I've taken all of that stuff off of my phone, and I only go on Instagram now through my desktop, which reduces my time on Instagram per week by about 1,000%. And I only follow like 6 people by purpose, so I don't have a long timeline to scroll. I'll still go on there and look at the same 4 pictures and be like, oh, cool. Like I'll just put, like I've luckily, and this is another overarching quest. I want to do some, if you watch Game of Thrones, some breaker of chain stuff to like really get people off their weird social media phone addiction, because I think it's pretty ubiquitous right now in terms of cell phone addiction. And social media addiction. And I also think it has a pretty nasty effect on people's behaviors. If you just think about like, if you get into behaviorism, they do ABC when they do a functional behavior analysis, and it's like antecedent, behavior, consequence. And right now, the antecedent right now is this very powerful pull, and almost kind of like, again, like a casino-like promise that like you, like a large scale social adoration and approval is at your fingertips. Just, like instead of clucking the wheel, it's like, send us your thoughts. And it's like you're up and down. Like you can have people who rise real high, say the wrong thing. People have, I think, their chips on this table, and the motivator is social approval, which is like, dude, it's up there with sex, hunger,
100%.
attachment, and social approval. People forget about this. It's up there with like your innate biological drive. It is an innate biological drive. People don't really think of it that way.
Yep.
But it's like, dude, you don't touch a baby for 3 weeks, it'll die. You can give it all the stuff it needs. Like, so it's a very serious thing.
Yep.
And right now, I think we are, all like 12-year-olds hooked on cigarettes with no idea. And I think it's in the coming years, I think there'll be some changes to it. But for now, it's like, dude, I think it's wrecking people, man.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think just the general nature of convert yourself from a consumer to a producer.
Yeah.
Right. Like produce things, create things, stop consuming, like make sure, of course there's going to be a ratio, but some people's ratio right now, and I've gone through periods of life where I'm just 100% a consumer or 99% a consumer. It's like, no, change that ratio, be a 90% producer and a 10% consumer. Your life would be so much happier. Like producing, it doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's a podcast. Doesn't matter if it's a piece of art. Doesn't matter if it's whatever. If you're a janitor, if it's cleaning up the floor, produce something, create value in the world, and make sure your ratio is so much slanted and asymmetry slanted towards production rather than consuming.
Oh yeah.
Because social media is a pure example of just consuming. That scroll feature, and this is in book after book on psychology and how how social media is impacting the way our brains are wired, literally. And it's from that scroll. And most of it's from that scrolling nature, this
Yep.
endless little tiny dopamine drip.
Yeah, and that's by design too. What they call like the infinite scroll, how it can kind of like go
Yep.
down and down. Then you pull that thing down, it goes and refreshes. That's directly from slot machines. Like
100%. No,
they got that idea from people who built slot machines, and well, they
no,
had
I
them
believe it.
actually. They had people who build slot machines consult to make these things more addictive. It's like we're
That's
now
crazy.
already not doing so well against slot machines, and now we have that. We have basically a slot machine for social approval rather than chips and coins in our pocket all day.
Oh
How many
yeah. Yeah. The
people
slot
can
machine's
even
right here.
exactly? It's like we're fucked. Like people can't even not just eat like shitty food when it's like a mile away. But like imagine if you had. I mean, we do now. It's in our pocket. It's like
Yeah.
so. It's really I'm trying to cultivate myself in that area of trying to and do it in a way where people are like, yeah, but I need it. So I'm going to try to cultivate my relationship with all that stuff in a way that proves like, hey, I'm using this as a tool and I'm still gaining all the benefits from it. And there's zero of the weird, addictive kind of emotional things that go into, that. So I'm going to try to lead by example on that.
Awesome. Well, and one final thing here. I know we're running a bit long today, but so you and I are both now doing this weight loss challenge, and we have until October 7th, which isn't too far away.
No.
What is your strategy, just so if people want to try it?
Right now it's funny because I have it might be a little different if I weren't in these other like fitness challenges in terms of running
Sure.
and doing push-ups. But for now, my strategy is, I do 200 to 300 push-ups a day. I try to run at least, let's say, I do 2 miles one day, take a day off, do a mile, then I'll run 2 miles, take a day off. So I try to run about like 5 miles a week. So basically 200 to 300 push-ups a day, 5 to 7, let's say, miles a week. And then in terms of eating, it's just meat, vegetables, fruit, a little bit of fruit here and there,
Mhm.
and like sweet potato or potato. So like you're basically a plant-based diet, just no
Yep.
no bread and no anything like that. Just things I could grow. That's the only things I'll eat.
Awesome. Cool.
What
Okay.
you
And
got?
then for the listeners, for me, what I'm doing is number one, I go to the gym, probably minimum once a day. Sometimes, let's say 50% of the time I get there twice a day. That's not for you. You don't need to do that. Like I don't need it. I just like doing it. I like going to the gym in the morning, lifting weights, maybe even getting in some cardio, and then in the evening going for yoga. I prefer that than watching 4 hours of TV after work. Um, so that's on the fitness side, and the fitness side could be anywhere. Usually full body workouts, lifting, and then I'll do classes for cardio. I'll either hike for cardio or I will do a class for cardio. Like this past week, on Friday, I did what was it? I think like a 4-hour hike out in Newport Coast, which is phenomenal. So I love doing that, but I cannot get on a treadmill. So if I'm in the gym and I'm doing cardio, I'm more likely to go and do a class. So if you're a member of a gym and you don't like doing cardio, try out a class. The second thing for nutrition is I'm putting together. I'm just testing. I've tested out so many diets, and I've done them to the extreme degree because I want to see. Okay, if I take this thing to be extreme, and I actually do it. Let's say I do it for 7 weeks straight. That's a really good test, and how my body reacts. So now I'm testing. Can I put together a program for myself and eventually teach it to others, where you don't have to track your calories, because that is the number one most guaranteed way of losing weight that I have found so far. Just tracking your calories, because it's just math, right? It's like, okay, if I eat this amount of calories and I burn this amount of calories, I should be, plus or minus depending on that ratio. And but now what I'm trying is, okay, well, what if I operated according to food density? Density meaning caloric density and nutritional density, like micronutrient density. So macronutrient density, micronutrient density, and water and fiber, otherwise called bulk. So your stomach's about, I'm doing some research on this. It seems like your stomach is about 4 cups, about 4 cups of capacity in your stomach before the stretch receptors start to send the signals to your brain that's saying, hey, you're full, right? So, think of it like a balloon. Once it stretches to a certain point, you get the signal saying, hey, you're full. Well, what America has done is we've dramatically increased the caloric density of our food while decreasing the actual size. So if you think of like a can of soda is, I don't know, a couple hundred calories, and you can drink it inside of 3 minutes if you really wanted to, or 5 minutes or 10 minutes max, let's say. Well, you've just consumed that, and there's no bulk to it. There's no volume to it other than I don't know, 20 ounces of liquid. So versus can I increase my bulk? And the way I'm doing that is, number one, I'm doing time restricted eating right now just to decrease the probability that I want to eat, unhealthy food. But then when I do eat, right off the bat, trying to hit that 4-cup mark, I'm increasing it to about 5 cups. So eating 5 cups of bulky, very micronutrient dense, but very calorically dilute foods. So I'm trying to capitalize off of that formula, right? So if you can imagine eating 5 cups of broccoli, and then I'm allowed to eat a snack. It's like, well, I only want very few snacks after that, if that makes sense. So really trying to play with this density diet and develop it, because I think it's going to be a game changer for me, and I think it'll be a game changer for a lot of people. And it's unbelievably healthy, like unbelievably healthy. So for instance, what I had last night was probably, a cup and a half of kale, probably 1 cup of beans, easily 2 cups of cauliflower rice, a cup of shrimp, and a whole probably like 3 cups, which was enormous. So I'm going well beyond the 4 cups, but it's probably another 2 or 3 cups of just random vegetables. So celery, broccoli, onions, and carrots, and I think a few others in there. So just really trying to increase the size, the bulk. So actually eating more rather than eating less, but making sure I'm paying attention to the density of that food.
I like that. I'm trying to actually, especially knowing all right, well, 4 cups, my stomach should be full. And, maybe like, well, it takes me 5 or 6, whatever. Actually working on part of that is pretty cool, rather than trying to less, because people do that. They're like, I won't eat anything. They think like, I'll eat this tiny plate and then I'll lose weight.
Yep.
What you're saying is like, eat a humongous bowl.
Yep.
Of bulky and nutrient dense food that's lower in calories. I kind of like that. And dude, I mean, think about so you're saying like eat 4 cups of kale. There's so many people who are like, I need my cheesesteaks, I need my bread. It's like, fine. Although, I know over time you'll be unhappy with the products typically of what that entails. And this is from the Untethered Soul. This one thing, it's so good, man. It's like, say you're eating your cheesesteaks and you're unhappy with it. You're like, I can't stop and blah, blah, like, why do I eat this way? There's a thing where they're like, if you want to try to figure out why you do things, simply stop doing them. Don't eat that, eat a bunch. Like, oh, I can't do it. Don't eat that stuff. Eat just vegetables for dinner one night, right? And then you'll start to get a feel. Your body will start producing these feelings and thoughts, and then you'll start to get an insight and say, oh wow, this, I'm starting to feel kind of weird. I'm feeling like this isn't enough, or whatever. But dude, it's pretty cool. It's something I've been using a lot in terms of helping me get off my cell phone and checking my phone in the morning. It's like, it's not so much about my phone. It's like I'm getting this feeling, you stop doing it. I get this like kind of angsty feeling, like I need it, and if you like ignore that one, then there's one before that. And it's pretty cool. So it's a cool way to start to look at, kind of curtailing behaviors that you don't feel like are serving you.
Dude. Yeah, no, I think that's spot on. And to hit on the point, you're spot on. It's what I'm suggesting people do is the exact opposite of what they think you should do. It's like, oh, I should reduce my meal size. I should reduce the amount. No. It's like, what if I did the exact opposite? What if I ate as much as possible within certain rules? But look, dude, the meal that I had last night, I couldn't fit any more food in my human. Yeah. Right? Like I felt like a king, right? Like you just sit there like, fat and happy, but you're not gaining any fat. So I'm testing it out, and I'll let you guys know what the results are. But I mean, it's just math. I can tell you right now, the results are going to be outstanding. I've done different versions of this, but now I'm going to really do an extreme version to show what kind of results can be produced from it.
Hell yeah. I like that.
And then one final thing, a little trick that I use is, Matt and I right now are talking about, okay, here are the goals for Monday, and we're going to follow back up. And like you said, Matt, take a victory lap on Friday, or come and put our tail between our legs. So one thing I think is a little hack to this, like a little trick, is I've got our list here. Matt has his list here. If you start on it and just put a 2-hour time block immediately after this conversation, you could probably get so many, if not all of these things started, dude.
Nice.
That's like a little ninja trick that I've used in the past. And because then like life gets in the way and it's like a couple of days later, it's like, no, make progress on this right now. Do a 2-hour time block. And I'd be surprised if you can't finish several of these, but you could definitely get started on all of them.
Nice, man. That's an awesome idea. I'm looking at it and I'm like, that would work fantastically.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to test that out as well.
Hell yeah, man. I'm going to make my intro video right now while my juices are flowing.
Do it. Exactly. Right. Your psychology, your emotion, your state of being is I'm ready to go right now versus 2 days into it, baby's crying, right? Whatever happens, right? Like all these other things, like, nope, just do as much as you can right now.
Hell yeah. That's, I'm actually going to write that down. Do it right now. All right, dude.
All right, brother.
As always, this is the best. Even if this turns into just a desert island of us two, it's like, this is my favorite part of the week. Dude, I love this shit.
I love islands.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, man.
All right, dude.
See you, man.
Later, buddy.